Well, I wonder what 80s franchise they're going to revive next. So I reviewed Child's Play 2019. You know, this is a remake of a movie from 1988. Featured one main star, it spawned a shit ton of sequels and franchise and spin-offs. Whereas the first Child's Play, the first three kind of, took itself pretty seriously. I mean, the first two did, the third one kind of ventured into the silliness, and then the rest just took the silliness and ran with it. And that's kind of what this one does. Now, inevitably, this new one is going to be compared to the one from 1988. So, I'm sorry, a bunch of my review is going to be the new one compared to the old one. So, what's this new one about? Well, they're coming out with this new electronic robot doll named Buddy. Instead of good guy, it's called a Buddy. And what happens is this Vietnamese worker who's programming it, he's going to get fired, and he's basically, just to give a giant middle finger to his boss, disables all the safety features, safety precautions, so it doesn't, become self-aware and kill people, disables all of that, and they get shipped out, and then the worker commits suicide, and then Aubrey Plaza finds this good guy doll that was returned, and then gives it to his son, and then the doll becomes attached to it, and this doll can control other electronics. It's kind of like how Google Home works, or how a lot of Apple products can control each other. It's kind of how it works. So, what I like about this movie? Well, I mean, this is what it does better than the original. This is what I like about it, is that, well, first of all, the character Andy, yes, like Andy, like in the original and the new one also is named Andy. He's a badass. He is awesome. He's way more fleshed out and way better written, and the actor that plays Andy is better than the one that plays him in the original one. The humor is good. I like how it takes the zaniness of the premise and just runs with it. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It doesn't try to make up hey, it's a scary movie. And I like it does that. It actually gives Andy some friends to interact with. Aubrey Plaza, she's good. She serves well. It's kind of interesting to see her in kind of a different kind of movie. Usually you see her in comedies. It doesn't try to do exactly what the original did, and I really like that. Now, what I not like about it? Well, in the original, how Chucky becomes like Chucky is because in the original, a serial killer, Charles Ray, transfers his soul via voodoo magic into this doll, and that's kind of how he becomes crazy and does everything. Whereas in this one, it's a robot that goes haywire. Which, I mean, I've seen that so many times, and it's kind of a tired concept. But that's one thing that the old one did better. Another one is that, now, I said Aubrey Plaza was good. But in the original one, the mother was played by Catherine Hicks, the mom from Seventh Heaven. And she looks more like a mom than Aubrey Plaza does. I'm not saying Aubrey Plaza can't pull off this role, but seeing what she's been in the past, it's kind of weird seeing her play a mother role. And honestly, at first, until they established it, I thought they were brother and sister. I thought Andy and Aubrey Plaza's character were brother and sister at first, until they actually established that's her mom. But Aubrey Plaza looks I don't know, it just looked strange to me. I thought Catherine Hicks was just way better, and I don't know, there were just things that didn't, this in the new one that just didn't make sense. For example, there's a part where they're driving, Chucky wants to get back at this character that is a threat to Andy to hit in his eyes, and is at a car. Well, he can control the car because he can control other electronics that are made by this Kaplan Corporation, like what Chucky's made from. And he controls it by making the car drive and disable the airbags, but it makes the seatbelt unhook? How does that work? And also, there's a part where a character gets killed by a table saw. Well, is it the table saw powered by Kaplan? I thought that was strange. Also, it just seems like that a lot of this could have been avoided ahead of time. There's so many things that they could have done to get rid of it rid of Chucky a lot easier than what they actually did. Granted, yes, they're kids, but at the same time, though, I feel like this could have been solved a lot easier. Another thing that's really disappointing too is that there's no appearance from other actors from the original franchise. Catherine Hicks isn't in it. Brad Dourif, the guy that originally voiced Chucky, isn't in it. Now, granted, the guy that voiced it now is Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill voiced Chucky in this one, and that's awesome. I thought that was really, really cool. But the original actor that plays Andy, who is the only, and the weird thing is the only two movies in the Chucky franchise that the original actor that plays Andy isn't in is Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky. Other than that, he's in everything else. Actually, no, he's also not in Child's Play 3. But he's in the other ones, so why not put him in this one? A lot of times when you see the older ones, they have cameos from the original actors. Another thing, though, that I also didn't like is, okay, in the original one, and like I said, most of this is going to be comparisons to the original one, so it sucks, but it's kind of comes with the territory. The original doll really looked like an actual doll. It didn't look threatening, and it looked like something that like a kid actually would have. This one, and the new one, is freaking terrifying. Why a kid would want a doll that looks like that is beyond me. It is freaky looking. First thing I saw, I was like, oh my god, that thing is terrifying. Why would I want my kid to have that? Also, I get the point of him getting the doll. It's kind of to roll with the punches, but kind of roll with the story. But in the original one, it actually made sense for the kid to have the doll. It actually made sense for Andy to have a doll like that, because in the original one, Andy's like 8 years old. Whereas in this new one, the kid's like 13, 14 years old. So why would he want a doll that does that? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Also, one thing that I like that the original did that this one didn't do is that the original one, like, yes, it took this premise a lot more seriously, but at the same time, though, this one really, it just took, like, you knew it was Chucky. So they didn't try to hide the fact that it might be Chucky killing people, or trying to hurt people, or kill pets or animals. Whereas in the original one, you really didn't know, because they didn't actually show that it was Chucky until towards the very end, with a very iconic scene in horror movies where you see that the batteries weren't even in the doll to begin with, but yet it was talking. Because in the original one, like, even though you know it's Chucky, it's very obvious it's Chucky, with the advertising showing that it's Chucky, the characters in the movie think maybe Andy's doing this, because the footprints kind of match what Andy's wearing, and it's built a lot of suspense. Now, yes, the original one took this premise a lot more seriously than the remake did, but that's kind of the detriment to it. Alright, this review's gone long enough, so I'm going to get down to it. Even though I have a lot of gripes about it, and I think the newer one is inferior to than the old one, I still give this movie a 7 out of 10. It's still really enjoyable. I really had a good time doing it. The worst thing about this movie, though, is that it picked the wrong franchise to remake, because this is still a very popular franchise, a very famous franchise, and it's not a continuation of the story, it's a remake of it. If it's a continuation, it would probably do better, but the problem is, though, is that it's a remake, so it's going to get lost in the shuffle. You're going to think Child's Play, you're going to think of the original, or Child's Play 1, 2, 3, Bride, Seed, Curse, Cults, like all that stuff. All those movies you're going to think of before you think of this one. And that's just a sad thing. But honestly, I still say go see it. It's still enjoyable, and unfortunately it decided to come out the same weekend as Toy Story 4. So, yeah. It's a good way to escape from kids. And see ya!